It's Thursday, the 24th of March, 2022, and welcome to the Water Action Platform. It's 2 years since we launched the Water Action Platform, and today is our 37th broadcast. Now, that means that if this was the US presidency, then we've now made it to the late 1960s and the 37th president, Richard Nixon. Earlier this week, on Tuesday the 22nd, it was World Water Day. And the theme this year was making the invisible visible, with a particular focus on groundwater. So today we have a technology showcase and a sector expert session specifically on this topic. We will also hear from Joe Burgess about one of the first Trial Reservoir trials, which has begun this month in Spain. As always, I want to thank our sponsors, without whom we would not be here. But to start today, we're going to spend a few minutes thinking about the situation in the Ukraine. Since the Russian invasion on February the 24th, much of the vital water and sewage infrastructure within the Ukraine has been destroyed. We have been in contact with water professionals from within the region to get some sense of the scale of the challenge. Our contacts tell us that the Russians are deliberately targeting key water infrastructure, and some water companies have only 10 days worth of chemicals and fuel left. Late last week, 4 people died whilst fixing broken assets on a water treatment site. We have received a message from the Ukrainian Association of Water and Sewage Companies asking us to share a letter, which I will circulate after this broadcast. Now, in that letter, they tell how they've had to quickly adjust legislation to enable the operation of critical water assets during wartime. They also make a heartfelt plea to the rest of the world. What they need are emergency power supplies, repair equipment, pumps, PPE, and the like. The letter makes an appeal directly for help. Here is a quote taken from that letter. The association appeals to all companies, public organisations and citizens for support. We are ready to assist in arranging direct connections to water supply and sewerage enterprises who can receive and distribute assistance. If you or your organisation can help, let me know and we will ensure that you are connected. Now, staying with this topic, earlier this month I spoke with one of the Water Action Platform members who is based in the Ukraine, Ruslan Lavrinenko. As he shares his story, you can hear how the people of the Ukraine are trying to continue with business as usual, despite the increasingly desperate circumstances.
Situation is, of course, very, very unexpected or bad because of Russian invasion. But nevertheless, life is going on, and we had the sun is shining, and it gives us also a lot of positives, vibes. And yes, people are doing their daily work. I went yesterday and day before yesterday to Kiev. City is almost empty, no people, no cars, but nevertheless there are some, and they stay here and they do daily work and their daily business.
Excellent. Now, I understand that you've been in the environment sector for the last 5 years or so. Tell me a bit about what it is that you do. What's your job?
My job is we are concentrated now on solving our water scarcity and water pollution. We have a special technology which I used to call fresh clean water everywhere. Means we can come at any place and we guarantee to our client to get water in excellent quality, drinking quality, and in big industrial volume. It means starting at least from 100 cubic meter per day up to the maximum what we had 1.6 thousand cubic meters per day. We had projects around the world, some in Baltic countries, some in Arabic countries, some in Africa, also a few in Germany, and so on.
Now, we're having this conversation, it's the 10th of March, and the Water Action Platform broadcast isn't made for another 2 weeks. And I know that there's lots that could happen in the next 2 weeks. Maybe the war will be over by the time we make this broadcast. But when I spoke with you yesterday, we agreed that because there was so much uncertainty, it made sense for us to talk today because we don't know what the future is going to look like. And the bit I love about talking with you, Ruslan, is you're just like all the other people that I talk to on the Water Action platform. You're like every member that we have on the Water Action platform. You care passionately about water and sanitation. You're technically brilliant at what you do. It's wonderful to talk with you today. Tell me about your hopes and fears for Ukraine and what we within the Water Action platform could perhaps do to just keep the pressure up on Russia and Putin. Tell me, how are you coping?
As you also already mentioned, the main problem is ceasefire. Pray and we negotiate for ceasefire, but it didn't come until now. And shelling of population in several cities all around Ukraine, like Mariupol, Sumy, Kharkiv. Russian aggressors, they are bombing, they are shelling. Population and a lot of infrastructures are completely damaged. They are hiding in from this shelling. They have no water and of course electricity and water supply, canalization, and some hospitals are damaged, and it is a big issue. Of course, after the end of this war, it will be a big work to renew it, to make it much better as before, for sure. But the biggest loss, it is life is of our people, of elder people, of women, of even of children.
And I know, Ruslan, that your wife and daughter, you left Kyiv earlier this week. Our thoughts, our prayers go with you. We're thinking of you. I thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. If there's anything we can do to support you, don't hesitate to shout. We stand firmly alongside the Ukraine in standing against this unnecessary aggressive act that's being made against you and your fellow men. Thank you, Ruslan.
We see it, and we appreciate your willingness to support us, your real support and real work to influence Russian side with sanctions and concrete steps of simple people sending us hygiene pieces and food and medicine and so on. Thank you very much.
On a related topic, we now come to the US-based organization H2Bid. Now, H2Bid essentially do two things. They help water companies with their procurement activities, and also, particularly relevant today, they assist water utilities in times of national crisis. Here is an extract from an interview I did with their chief executive, Glenn Oliver, earlier this month. I started by asking him to share a bit about his background.
Sure. I'm a former water commissioner. I was a water commissioner in Detroit, Michigan, and here in the USA, which was a large system. It served about 40% of the state of Michigan, and it gave me a lot of experience in dealing with the issues that water and wastewater utilities deal with, because we had both water and sanitation in the system. That's my background.
Well, and of course, it's that background that's led you to being so successful in H2Bid. And I know H2Bid does two things. Tell me the two things that H2Bid does.
Sure. The first thing that we do is we connect water and wastewater utilities with vendors and suppliers to help them get access to more suppliers, and hopefully what we believe is help them get better pricing, better access to more solutions, and save money. And pretty much essentially everything that we do is designed to help water and wastewater utilities save money. The second thing that we do is connect water and wastewater utilities in a virtual community about parts and materials, share information in real time, and also expedite mutual aid. So we call it a virtual community with a network effect.
And also, I think this idea was developed from another sector. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, we're actually fortunate to be partnering with a company called RC that has been connecting public electric utilities for over 20 years in a virtual community, doing exactly what we're talking about. They have a platform that's very unique, and they're able to share information in real time and expedite mutual aid. And they've got lots of stories of where after hurricanes and after disasters, utilities are able to find parts and materials quickly at other utilities, ask for help for the specific items that they need, and get that help in an expedited way. we have an example right now that we're working on where we are connecting 7 countries, the water and sanitation utilities in 7 countries in the Caribbean, to help them share information, but also expedite mutual aid. So they have a lot of hurricanes in that area. So now when they have a hurricane or a major storm, their system goes down, they can find sister utilities that may have the parts and materials that they need to get their system back up and running and restore service in a much faster way.
It's incredible, because this is saving at the point when a disaster happens. This sort of activity is what saves lives. Getting that critical infrastructure back up and running. I am not worthy to be in your presence. This is so good.
Oh, you're too kind. You're too kind.
Now, I get that you're doing it in the Caribbean. In Eastern Europe at the moment, we've got war has broken out, and who knows how it's going to expand. Would you reach as far as helping utilities in Eastern Europe?
Oh, definitely. We can connect utilities in every part of the world. In fact, we want to connect utilities worldwide. But in Eastern Europe, the same thing. What you're going to have after this war is you're going to realize it will be as if a storm had hit that country. So you have a lot of torn up infrastructure, and they're going to need parts and materials to repair their infrastructure. And if there are utilities in neighboring countries, or even countries that are even further away, that want to provide help, into that database that we have here, where they can indicate what they have, it allows other utilities that want to come in and help them to know what parts and materials they may need to bring to help them out. Similarly, on the other side of the coin, it would allow the utilities in the Ukraine to be able to specifically identify materials that may be at other utilities that they can ask for help and say, hey, look, we see that you guys use X type of valve or X type of pipe, and we need 5 of those. Can you help us out?
Brilliant, isn't it? What a great system. I truly wish that we didn't need H2Bid to exist, but I'm delighted that they do. Please consider joining them at this website. Their aim is to connect every utility in the world. If you want to get involved either with H2Bid or with a response to the Ukrainian Water Association letter, then let me know. We now come to our Trial Reservoir update. The Trial Reservoir was formed in response to the IPCC report last year on the climate crisis, and this initiative now has significant traction. Here is Joe to tell us about the first trial being undertaken with IVAPS and Agbar in Spain.
Hi and welcome back. You may recall the Trial Reservoir is our response to COP26. We saw the climate destruction all around us and we thought someone should do something. And then we thought, we are someone. So with the support of these fantastic partners, this is our something. It's a pool of money we're giving to the industry to be used as an evergreen fund to support trials of climate change mitigating technologies. It's unique in that there's a commitment in place before the trial begins. If the trial is successful, then the technology user will immediately deploy it. If the trial is not successful, then that commitment by the user falls away, and the technology developer doesn't have to repay the loan. Now, last month we had 3 trials right on the brink of starting, and this month we're going to focus on one of those, IVAPS and Agbar. IVAPS technology is a smart isolation valve with advanced control and monitoring built in. It has a cartridge format, and it can be extracted to repair or replace under full pressure. The trial takes place here in Spain. IVAPS will install 4 units in a network, and then, together with the Agbar team, they will test them against success criteria which both companies have already agreed to. The cartridges measure pressure, flow, and temperature. You can add other parameters, things like chlorine residual or nitrates, so they're customizable. You can remove them to repair and replace them or swap them out under full line pressure in under 15 minutes. And here are IVAP's Chief Executive Officer and Agbar's Chief Technical Officer speaking to me together about the new trial.
I'm interested in finding out from you, from your own perspective, what attracted you to undertaking this trial and to doing it with the Trial Reservoir. Simon, if I can ask you first, what is it that appealed to you about the Trial Reservoir and Agbar as your technology user?
I think what's really important in this, traditionally when you're introducing innovation to the market, everybody's rushing to be second. And this is a challenge that IVAPS faces, and I'm sure multiple companies that have great technology face. So the secret from any business strategy is to have support from companies like Agro, who have been fantastic, and realize that the technology can make a fundamental difference to their business as well. So it's a true partnership when it comes to innovation. That's how I see the situation as we have at the moment.
Partnership sounds like absolutely the way forward. So if I speak to your partner now, Carlos, what's in it for you? Why are you interested in this technology, and what do you want out of the trial?
Thank you for the invitation, Joe. Yes, IVAPS has a difference from the other valves that we find in the market. It fits perfectly in the strategy of digitalization of networks of Agro. The fact that it's self-sustainable in terms of energy, at the same time measuring different parameters, is going to provide data that we can monitor and reduce the piping and the leakage in the network, and so that also contributing to the reduction of CO2.
Simon, back to you. Why do you think this particular trial location is going to be very useful for your technology?
I think what Agro have been able to do is thoroughly understand the technology. They've been able to look at the mechanical benefits and also the technology benefits, which we believe are integrated. But they've given us a bit of a tall order. They've taken the site, which, as they said last week, is one of the most challenging sites they have for their network. So I think we've been thrown in the deep end, literally, pardon the pun, which is great. So it's a good testing ground for what we're doing. So we're really pleased with the support we're getting from Carlos and his team, and it's going to really put the technology to test, which is important for us.
Yeah, in this technology in particular, we find something that is differentiating from other technologies. Typically, we are testing treatment technologies or different devices, and we are testing digital technologies, models, and artificial intelligence tools. And in this case, there is a mix. So this is real IoT. This is something that is mixing the physical world with the digital world. That is making a difference, because it's connecting all the digital systems with the asset, with the reality.
Sincere thanks to you, Carlos and Simon, for giving us your time today. As Carlos said, there are energy savings to be made by not pumping water which is lost. Plus, these devices self-generate energy from flow. The battery is just backup for no-flow periods. So this considerably reduces the carbon footprint compared to other smart sensors. The carbon cost of fabrication is lower than competing technologies, and they are repairable, and when they do reach the end of their life, they're fully recyclable, so the lifetime carbon footprint is also lower. I expect we'll hear from Carlos and Simon again in a few months, but in the meantime, Piers, back to you.
Thank you, Joe. We now come to this week's technology showcase, which this week has a groundwater application. The company is Quantum Filtration Medium, and they exclusively manufacture DMI-65, an advanced oxidation catalytic media for the removal of iron, manganese, and arsenic contaminants, which are particularly prevalent in groundwater. Now, they achieve this removal without the need for potassium permanganate or chemical regeneration, using a unique infusion technology. Now, DMI-65 is a catalytic media facilitating oxidation, precipitation, and filtration without being consumed in the reaction. So here's James Glaskin from Australia, founder and chief executive, sharing some more.
The problem is iron manganese is considered to be a nuisance metals in water. Arsenic, concentrations as low as 10 micrograms per litre, is highly toxic and naturally found in groundwater. The DMI-65's novel technology we call infusion technology. It's not a regular coating like other competing media types, but we have chemically infused oxidizing layers onto and into the microporous structure of silica sand. So this infusion technology increases oxidation and can remove iron, manganese and arsenic to almost undetectable levels. With infusion technology, there's no chemical regeneration required to help the DMI-65 do its catalytic work. It only requires a small amount of sodium hypochlorite to maintain its good condition. DMI-65 uses 50 to 70% less chemicals when in comparison to our major competitor Green Sand Plus, which has a manganese oxide coating, not chemical infusion coating, and it also uses 70% less than traditional silica sand methods. One of our favourite case studies is the George Municipal Water Supply in South Africa. Their raw water was typically 1.66 milligrams per litre with iron, 0.52 milligrams per litre manganese, and had some aluminium in there as well. Since turning over to DMI-65, it's used the same 550 tonnes of DMI-65 continuously without failure since 2007. In that 15 years, the residual quality of the water was typically with iron less than 0.01 milligrams per litre, manganese less than 0.05 milligrams per litre, aluminium less than 0.03 milligrams per litre. Turbidity was very clear at less than 0.06 NTU, and the colour units was less than 4 milligrams per litre.
Thanks, James. It is perhaps worth keeping in mind that over the past 20 years, DMI-65 has been used in hundreds of municipal and industrial applications across 65 countries. So what this means is there should be sufficient real-world examples to give you confidence that it will do what it claims. Moving now to our sector expert and staying with the groundwater theme, this week we have Mohammed Faiz Alam. Faiz is a researcher working with the International Water Management Institute in Delhi, India, and his research focuses on achieving water and food security. Faiz is also a member of the specialist group on groundwater management with the International Water Association, working specifically on urban water management issues. Here he is, speaking with my colleague, Yang Villa.
Faiz, as you know, we are celebrating the World Water Day with the theme Making the Invisible Visible. So what is it that you wish the public knew about groundwater to make them appreciate it more?
Thanks, Yang, for having me here. I think the one part that is really striking about groundwater is the importance it holds for the overall economy, overall in South Asia and in India. For example, more than around 64% of the area is irrigated by groundwater. So most of the food we eat is coming from groundwater. And groundwater, more than 80% of the rural population depends on groundwater as their drinking source. And in cities, it could be 50%. So what you see, like all around the water we see, it's mostly groundwater. What are we drinking, what we are eating. And so I think that's very striking. And sometimes I feel, and sometimes most of us feel, this remains invisible in the policy circles or the general discussions that we have. Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that South Asia exports a lot of agricultural products that are irrigated by groundwater.
Oh yeah, thanks for putting this here. That's an important dilemma. We produce a lot. Other than just producing food, it's a livelihood. More than 50% of our population, it depends on agriculture, and export is exporting agriculture goods is an income stream. And we have this dilemma in a water scarce country exporting water intensive foods to outside, and how to tackle this remains a question, I think.
Can you tell us more about the research that you're doing about groundwater in South Asia?
So what our research focuses on is understanding, knowing that groundwater holds such a critical role in our whole economy, how to manage it better. And I think that's the whole research about. And what we have here, specifically in South Asia, one part that is central is the groundwater energy nexus. A lot of the groundwater we extract needs energy. We have around 24 million pumps here, depending on electricity or diesel. So in one research, what we are trying to do is that there are, in terms of energy part, how we can manage energy, this nexus and that way we can manage groundwater also. A lot of the electricity farmers use is subsidized, so it's cheap. So the argument goes that maybe these subsidies, the cheap electricity, there is no incentive for farmers to use water more efficiently. So how we can manage this nexus better. And solar is a great example. I think the government, Indian government, also government around South Asia are promoting solar. So can solar irrigation break this perverse incentives? And for example, I'll just give you an example of the scheme that India government is trialing out here. So what they're giving farmers solar irrigation, but at the same time, they're giving them the choice that they can sell the power back. They can generate electricity, they can pump the water, and whatever the electricity is left, they can sell it back. So it's a very nice incentive for farmers not to overuse water, use it more efficiently. And that's, I think, one part of the research we're trying to focus, how this policy is working across South Asia, in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal. So whole continent, subcontinent here.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And do you think do you think the government is doing enough to really monitor groundwater extraction to make sure that we are using just the sustainable yield and not going overboard?
And I think monitoring groundwater extraction, I think that remains a very Herculean task, specifically in South Asia when we are talking about more than 24 million structures.
Right.
But I think the effort to monitor it has stepped up. Government recognize that without knowing how much we have, how much we are abstracting, we can't manage it properly. So I think government is being very proactive about it. We work with government in guarding this. I think they're trialing out some very innovative schemes, and with them we are trying to find out how they work and how we can make them work better.
Again, that multi-stakeholder perspective, you're trying to put that together in your research.
Yes, I think that remains a central part of what we do in IMI. I think as a research can't go into ground or can't be implemented without having the diverse experience, knowledge of multi-stakeholders coming from the government, coming from non-government parts, but also from the field. Farmers itself have to be the main stakeholders. That remains a central to any project or any research we do here.
Thank you, Faiz. Thank you, Yang. You can get in touch with Faiz on LinkedIn, Twitter, or through the IWMI website. We now come to our "And Finally" section, and last month you may recall I played this famous Be Like Water clip from Bruce Lee with the last few words dubbed by someone from the water sector.
Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash.
Be water, my friend.
In this new, hopefully regular addition to the Water Action platform, we are going to celebrate and recognise individuals who've made contributions over and above what would normally be expected. You've heard of Hollywood stars. Well, these are the Water Action platform stars, or WAPwood Stars for short. The voice you just heard was the wonderful Frank Rogalla, Director for Innovation and Technology at Aqualia in Spain. Frank is being recognised here because of his outstanding contribution to the water sector, in particular through the multiple research programmes which he, along with his team, have applied for, won, delivered and disseminated across the water sector. Frank entered the water sector in the mid-1980s, straight from university. He's worked for august companies such as General Deso, now Veolia, Metcalfe and Eddy, and was based in Brazil as Severn Trent's Director for Technology in the late 1990s. He spent the early noughties as the global technology leader for Black & Veatch, essentially flying around the world solving difficult engineering problems. But I think that it was when he joined Aqualia in 2008 that his contribution to the water sector really went supersonic. In this role, he has led multiple research programs, administering literally tens of millions of euros in external funding for projects co-financed by institutions like the EU and the Spanish Ministry of Economic Development. There are so many groundbreaking projects that Frank has been involved in, but my favourite is the All Gas project, which had the ambitious target of using wastewater as a key factor in creating biofuels. This project demonstrated that large-scale biofuel production could be achieved through low-cost microalgae cultures using municipal wastewater, with the final fuel product being used in vehicles, as shown here. Frank is supported by a dedicated team, seen here, and if that wasn't enough, here is also a picture of him at a solidarity event to raise awareness of the fact that 6 kilometres is the average distance a person in low-income countries has to walk to find water. So, what do we give a man like Frank to recognise his achievements? Well, we didn't like the carbon footprint associated with creating a physical trophy, so instead we've planted a tree. It is in a private woodland just near Gatwick Airport. Doesn't look much today, but it will grow into a magnificent lime tree. In 20 years' time, it will look like this, and you are all welcome to come and bask in its shade. Now, this begs the question as to who will be next month's WAPwood Star. Well, here's a clip from the 1970s film Walkabout, where 2 children are lost in the Australian outback as their water resources dry up. Listen for these special dubbed words for next month's Water Action Platform Star.
Which way are we going today? I hope we find lots of sand. I don't like climbing up those hills much. I don't suppose it matters which way we go. We'll stay here.
Perhaps the water will come back.
Where from?
Did you get who it was? With that, we come to the end of this week's broadcast. Thank you again to our sponsors. In June, we'll be hosting a special additional workshop on advanced digestion, the pros and cons. I will share more details when I circulate the slide deck later today. However, our next broadcast will be on Thursday, the 28th of April at the usual times. Keep asking questions, keep sharing, and keep safe.